Last year, AI could write a decent blog post. Now it can code entire apps and even create celebrity deepfakes. And while this is a huge advancement for the world, something unexpected also happened to learners and creators. Back in the pre-GPT days when I was creating YouTube videos, my process was to brew a cup of coffee, open a blank sheet of paper, and then just draw and think. Right, sketch my ideas out. And sure, I'd borrow some ideas from books I was reading, from creators that inspired me, but those ideas all moved through me and onto the page. But since AI can basically research and write an entire YouTube video in like 15 seconds, the temptation is there to just let it do it. A lot of creators realize the potential here, but it also created a dangerous cycle. Because when everyone uses AI to generate content, which AI learns from, and then creates more similar AI content, everything starts to feel a little stale. And so it's no surprise it's so much harder to break out nowadays. But AI isn't supposed to replace our thinking, it should enhance it. It should make you even more you. And so I want to show you some of the ways that I'm currently using AI in my entire creative process, from ideation to contemplation to optimization. But before we get there, we first have to understand how to properly speak to AI or else you get these poo-poo responses. Most people use AI as a glorified search engine to look things up or summarize stuff. But to be honest, I've never found these generic summaries or responses that useful. They're kind of shallow and just regurgitate all the most popular like how-to steps, that you find on the internet. But the simplest way to turn a generic poo-poo output like this into something that's actually usable is to understand the art of prompting. Prompting is probably going to be one of the most important skills to learn, especially as we enter the AI age. A really good GPT prompt has 5 components: a goal, context, an output format that you want, an example of the output, and then also the writing style or tone. And if you nail all 5 of those, you're already ahead of like 90% of the people who use ChatGPT. For example, I want to create a lesson on productivity for my high school students. Give me a table of the 20 most popular and also uncommon productivity principles for teenagers. And then I give an example. Example principles include time blocking, 2-minute rule, Pareto principle, use a direct and casual tone of voice. And now I should get a much more useful output than the one I had before. In order to give it a good prompt, you do have to do some of your own thinking, right? That part that we don't want to offload. Let's move into the specifics of my creative process, starting with ideation. And so the first and most important step of ideation is understanding what problem are you trying to solve? Why do you need to ideate and come up with ideas? For me, I want to create really good educational YouTube videos that help other people create good education products themselves. Because once you have that goal, it gives you a direction for all the prompting to go towards. The first technique here is called the spiderweb method. So for example, let's say that my idea here is to create a video about some of the most underrated or unheard of productivity tips. So I'm going to ask it now, what are 5 unconventional questions about productivity that most experts never address? And notice how I didn't use the 5 parts of the prompt because I'm carrying this conversation from the previous prompt I gave it. So it already knows my goals and all that stuff. And now with the spiderweb method that we've branched into 5 different ideas, we can basically apply that same principle again to each one of these 5 and get even more branching ideas. Give me the opposite or counter perspectives on each of these 5 points. And to continue spiderwebbing, you can take any of these ideas and just keep prompting it with other things that you're curious about to really explore the way that you would normally think. The next ideation prompt here is something called the HAT method. This is something I learned from medical school. So when a new patient comes into the hospital, they have a problem, right? They're in pain or something's wrong. And it's our job as doctors to figure out what's wrong with them. And to do that, we come up with something called a differential diagnosis. Basically, what are all the possible things we think this person might have? And a really powerful way that my attending would come up with a differential diagnosis is they would put on a different hat. If I was a cardiologist, what would I think this patient had? Okay, what if I was a psychiatrist? What would I be thinking now? What if I was a pulmonologist? What if I was a nephrologist? Putting on different hats here means thinking about a problem from a different perspective. And I always thought that was such a good way to compartmentalize and come up with new ideas that I normally wouldn't think about. So we can also do that using AI. Compare how a doctor, an athlete, a carpenter, an accountant, a politician, and I need one more, a fashion designer would utilize these 5 productivity questions to produce higher quality work. But of course, as you know, you can't just keep consuming and curating ideas. You have to turn those ideas and flesh them out into content that's valuable for someone to understand. And I think this is actually the part where a lot of creators get stuck. They fall into something, I don't know if it exists, but I'm going to try to coin this term right now. It's capture syndrome. It's so easy now with AI tools like Readwise, like Save to Notion, like all these highlighting tools, that we can just easily grab text, transcripts, ideas, highlights, book notes, all that stuff into our notes app. And we have all this information, but we just never do anything with it, right? And the more we put in there, the more overwhelming our library gets and the harder it actually is to use it in the future. And what we end up with is like a graveyard of all of these compiled tidbits of information from the internet without anything meaningful from it. It's just more fluff. This is why step 2 of my creative process is called contemplation. I want to be using as much brain power as possible to turn the stuff that I've captured into something that is useful. And there's one prompt in particular that I've been enjoying a lot that's allowed me to get really deep insights and contemplation with some of the ideas that I've had. I call it the levels of depth. So the first thing I'm going to do is start with an idea that we got from the ideation step. So maybe I'll take embracing imperfection for productivity. Use this idea, and your goal is to give me 5 levels of depth for this concept. Each level gives deeper insight than before. The next thing you want to do is define level 1. And the goal is to make level 1 already as detailed as this prompt right here. So you're forcing AI to go even deeper by 4 different levels than it currently gave you. And for level 1, I'm actually going to use the output it already gave me up here because that's the starting point. So the idea that we're using is this one. Level 1 is this. Now let's see what deep contemplation AI can help me do. All right, so level 1, basic insight. It's giving me this. Level 2, strategic approaches. Level 3, mindset shifts. Level 4, long-term benefits. Level 5, the broader perspectives. I think this is pretty cool because as an educator, you want to meet your students where they are. And so you have to speak to them at each level of their journey. I think the problem with so many educational creators or educational YouTubers is they explain things at such a high level that it just goes over the head of everyone they're trying to connect with. Now for me, this is pretty much the extent that I would use for contemplation with AI before I moved over to drawing it out myself. There's just something to me about using an iPad or stylus or pen and paper to really map out your ideas and connect the dots together that you just can't do with AI. But using AI to first get the contemplation cogs turning really allows me to form deeper insights to create really meaningful frameworks and compelling ideas that I can then translate into these videos or into my courses. And so if you're not already using an iPad or some free-form thinking canvas, I highly recommend you do. It is, in combination with AI, really the ultimate thinking tool and companion to get your ideas fleshed out. And I'm not going to get into my entire note-taking process in this video, but we've created a bunch of videos about our tree noting process, which you can check out up here. So finally, moving on to the last part of the process here is optimization. How to consistently speed up your process so you can stay in your creative zone of genius. So when I was a doctor, one of the most important parts of the job was handoff, or transferring care of a patient over to another team member. They need to know everything about that patient so they can adopt care. And I remember thinking back then, man, I wish I could just clone myself. But nowadays, most of the AI tools that we have at our disposal, we can use to create an AI clone. It's just kind of surprising how so many learners and creators are not utilizing this feature yet. A digital version of you that understands the way you think, the language that you use, the research and the insights and the ideation, the contemplation that you've gone through. And so let me introduce you to one of my AI clones, which I call Marty. And this is OpenAI. I've created a custom GPT. And if you go to Edit GPT, what we can see here is that I've uploaded a whole bunch of documents to this custom GPT, so it understands a lot of context about me. It understands my competitors. It understands my unique methodologies and frameworks and the things that I've contemplated. It understands who I am. I fed it information about my origin story. It understands my offer for my business, how I like to write YouTube videos and scripts, how I like to write my threads and short form content. I even gave it a photo of what it looked like without my shirt on. My AI clone knows the way that I ideate. It knows the way that I contemplate. It knows the type of content that I create, and it knows the way that I usually write. So for example, I can ask it, write me a YouTube script about the 5 most misunderstood productivity principles. And Marty should, I'm gonna cross my fingers that it does this properly, format it in a way that I usually deliver my videos. And thankfully it is. It even outputs it in the exact format that I like it. And I can use this as my new baseline starting point. But I was only able to get to this point because I have optimized my process of ideation and contemplation over and over to create content like this to keep feeding into my AI clone. I can continue ideating further, right? I can use the hat method again. I can use the spiderweb method, and then I can contemplate it further. I can use the 5 levels of depth and generate new content, which I can then feed and optimize back into my GPT clone to improve its outputs over and over and over. And this is how I've been creating content that's unique to me, that saves a ton of time, so I have more time to spend with my clients, with my family, with my friends, and playing music or doing whatever the hell I want to. I've been experimenting with this exact workflow using a ton of different AI tools like Notion AI, Tana AI, Notebook LM, OpenAI, of course, Anthropic, and they all kind of have their own different flavors of outputs and actually use cases. And so if you guys are pretty interested in seeing a comparison breakdown of all the different workflows using those tools, definitely leave a comment below and I will consider making that video. I know that sharing everything about yourself with AI can feel a little spooky. I know identity theft and security and privacy is very real, but honestly, in my opinion, if you're a creator, then it's your duty to get your ideas out there, to get them to circulate so people can use them and generate better, more useful content. That's how we can all help each other move and progress education as it stands. And from having integrated AI deeply with my workflow for the past year and a half, I think the upside far outweighs any negatives there is, because the future of education and online work and creativity, it really belongs to the creators who are willing to go as deep as possible with what they're learning.